Welcome, dear students. In this video, we will discuss properties of genetic code. Genetic code is kind of special language that is used by the nature for hereditary information that encodes structure of the proteins, and also this information guides development and functional activity of the organisms. In order to understand the meanings of messages that we have in genetic code, we have to know its properties. So, as every language, genetic code has its own properties, and we will discuss them now. First of all, I will share my presentation with you. I hope that it will work correctly. Yeah, that's it. And let's start. So, in more clear and precise way, we may determine genetic code as sequence of nucleotides in the DNA that determines sequence of amino acids in the protein. So you have to focus at this word, sequence of nucleotides, that is in the DNA, determine sequence of amino acids in the protein. Somehow, nucleotides in the DNA corresponds to amino acids in the protein, and in few seconds, we will discuss how this exactly matched. Triplet nature of genetic code. This is one of key properties that you have to understand very good, and I will help you with this. Let's imagine that we have here a DNA with some sequence of nucleotides. Here you see chain of 12 nucleotides that are connected together. And it's obviously that this DNA actually encode information about structure of the protein, and structure of the protein itself represented by chain of amino acids that are connected together. Three nucleotides that goes one by one, they carry information about one specific amino acid. Next three nucleotides will give us information about next amino acid in the structure of the protein. Another next three nucleotides will give us information about next amino acid in the structure of the protein. So triplet nature tells us that three nucleotides gives us information about one amino acid. The group of three nucleotides going one by one, also called triplet. Another name that you may meet in the literature when we're talking about DNA and mRNA is codon. But for me, it's more common to call this triplet. Next important property that I want to discuss with you is redundancy or degeneracy. This property protect genetic code from some spontaneous point mutations. And we will look how this works now. Let's imagine that there is a triplet, for example, triplet 1, specific triplet of nucleotides, and this triplet encodes specific amino acid. The trick is that same amino acid may be encoded by another triplet of nucleotides, and yet another triplet of nucleotides can give us same amino acids. For example, if we have triplet thymine, cytosine, thymine, this triplet gives us information about amino acid serine. And let's imagine that due to sudden mutation, last thymine in this triplet was changed to cytosine. You see, now instead of thymine, cytosine, thymine, we have another triplet, thymine, cytosine, cytosine. And due to redundancy or degeneracy of genetic code, when several triplets can encode same amino acid, next triplet, thymine, cytosine, cytosine, actually responsible also for serine. Another example is when last thymine, due to mutation, may be changed to adenine. And according to vocabulary of genetic code, triplet thymine, cytosine, adenine is also responsible for serine. And this is a property of genetic code that gives additional line of protection against mutations. However, I have to admit that this protection is not absolute because, for example, if there will be mutation in the second nucleotide of this triplet, so if instead of thymine, cytosine, thymine, there will be thymine, adenine, thymine, this triplet, thymine, adenine, thymine, will give us information not about serine, but it is responsible for tyrosine amino acid. To summarize, simple idea of redundancy is that several different triplets may encode same one amino acid. Next property of genetic code is specificity. And again, we will come back to this simple illustration. I like simple illustration because they help us to clarify complex ideas. So you see that one triplet gives us information about one amino acid in the protein. And specificity tells us that situation that is described in this illustration, when one triplet gives us information about several different amino acids, is actually not possible. Specificity tells you that one triplet may give you information about only one amino acid and not about another amino acid. One triplet, one amino acid. This is simple idea of specificity. Also, there are some stop codons in the genetic code. Let's look once again at this illustration that you already saw a few minutes before. And let's focus our attention at last three nucleotides that make together triplet. Some triplets of nucleotides, they are actually not specify any amino acids. So there are no amino acids encoded by certain triplets. These triplets are thymine, adenine, adenine, thymine, adenine, guanine, and thymine, guanine, adenine. These triplets, they are not responsible for some type of amino acid. Instead of this, we call them altogether stop codons. They are used to switch off protein synthesis. So there are no amino acids that encoded by these triplets, and they are used to stop protein synthesis. Next property is universality of genetic code, and this property tells us that genetic code is actually the same in all living organisms. But as I usually tell to all my students during my lectures, nature is much more complex than our simplified explanations, and that's why usually when we learn some basic ideas, we have to keep in mind that there may be some special cases and some exceptions. And in this case, there is also exception. Some codons in mitochondrial DNA encode another amino acids in comparison with nuclear DNA. So there is tiny exception from general rule, but you have to remember general rule that genetic code in general is the same in all living organisms. For example, if certain triplet of nucleotides encode specific amino acid in my cell, in your cells, same triplet of nucleotides will encode same amino acids. And if we will look inside of the cells of the animals, whatever animal you choose, if you will find same triplet in the genotype of the animal, this triplet will encode same amino acid as if it would be in your genome or in my genome. So genetic code is same in all living organisms. Another property of genetic code is absence of the commas. So this tells you that there are no punctuation gaps between adjacent codons. Also, genetic code is non-overlapping. This means that each nucleotide belongs to only one codon. Let's look at this sequence of nucleotides in the DNA. You see here triplet, let's say this will be triplet 1 and triplet 2. And these and these two triplets, they goes one by one, and we should read them with the help of reading frames that presented here in black and red color. And non-overlapping means that situation like this, when nucleotide number 3 is kind of belong to first triplet and second triplet is not happening. So situation that is described in this picture is not happens because genetic code is non-overlapping. Nucleotide number 3 belongs to first triplet and not belongs to second triplet. I hope that this is clear for you, and let's go further. Collinearity. Collinearity tells you that linear arrangement of codons in messenger RNA determines corresponding linear arrangement of amino acids in the protein. So there is a linear chain of messenger RNA, and there is a linear chain of primary structure of the protein. And now let's summarize properties that we discussed in this video. Genetic code has triplet nature. Another important property of genetic code is specificity. Next one, redundancy or degeneracy. Presence of some stop codons, absence of commas, universality, and collinearity. That's it. I hope that this information was clear for you. If you still have some questions, feel free to ask these questions in comments for this video. Thank you so much and see you in next videos. Okay, now I have to switch off this presentation and to stop video record.